Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hi, I'm Sue Rose Minahan, and this is Eclipse. This is Solstice, new moon eclipse, 0 degrees, Cancer. And on the East Coast, that will be tomorrow, actually, on the 21st, early in the morning, 2 o'clock, and a little after. And today here on the West Coast where we are, it's almost going on midnight. And this will be with the Moonbeam Team that we will introduce a little later. And really, what is the message? The message is we're between worlds. We are navigating terrain that every astrologer that you happen to listen to will tell a person, there are new territories, and for good reason. We are at 0 degrees, which is at the cardinal activation direction going north as our planet spins through space. And we're also at the last degree of the nodes. And because of the ecliptic path next to the nodes, which are the intersection between the moon and the orbit of and the ecliptic, there's where they all align because of the spacing in space, where the moon blots out the sun. Now, this won't be where we are. This is down in another territory of the globe, happens to go across the lower part of Africa and then across Middle East and then into India and then over to China, and a wide spread since the shadow does spread. However, we are global, and as we know in this world, we are a global experience, which really adds the depth and meaningness to this most illustrious moment in history. We're bookend, you might say, by the 2 lunar eclipses that are prenumbal. And that means that in many ways you couldn't see a shadow. Many people don't see the shadow, but it's a very slight, like a tea bag soaked. Rick Levine was mentioning this in one of his podcasts, who's an astrologer here in the Northwest and does a monthly podcast. So the point is that the focus of those 2 lunar eclipses is it takes very, very ancient, old energies and is purging them. Meaning here we are straddled right in between. And this eclipse is
Are you there, Sue? Well,
no.
This is Elizabeth Liz Muschett, and I'm one of the Moonbeam Team members, and it sounds like we've lost Sue for a moment, but we'll continue on. And the Moonbeam Team also consists of Sara Stromley.
Hi. Oh, you know what? If you're both there, how about I think this is excellent. I love it. How about if we say, and now we're ready for the Moonbeam Team. Okay.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam Team.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, certified astrologer, sacred healing counselor, tarotist, and numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camano Island, Washington.
And I'm Sara Stromley, a craniosacral therapist and founder of Brain Body Therapy in Kirkland, Washington. I'm an evolutionary astrologer that incorporates different forms of horary, location mapping, and medical astrology into my practice. I enjoy uncovering flower and mineral frequencies that also support the mind-body coherence that aid in the healing journey.
And as Albert Einstein said, energy is never destroyed. Energy only changes.
Well, I sure thank this wonderful Moonbeam team, and that's a very excellent moment. I might lose connection. I'm not over in my regular habitat. I happen to be experiencing, you might say, life experience with my own mother, soon to pass. And so if my connection here gets lost, they will carry through and you will hear a great bunch of talk, which I think I'll listen more than I talk tonight at any rate, which really is like the changing of what. So in other words, we'll start off like we usually try to, just with one idea. And my idea was just that we're between beginning new foundations, and we're with 0 and 29. So there you go. Okay, Liz or somebody will lead on. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, it's like breathe, keep breathing. Don't make any major decisions at this moment if you can at all help it. Because once this eclipse passes, I think we'll have a little bit more of an understanding, but this is a new beginning. It's at a new point. It's a birthing point. So exciting.
Yeah, to second both Sue and Liz, I believe we're in the collective birth canal right now. There's something that's ready to come through. We're wading through the darkness, and this June 21st eclipse, it's going to unfold its mystery and power for at least 6 months. So it's potent for seeding intention of what you want birthed into the world.
Yep, that's true. I know. I was waiting for you guys to keep on yakking.
Okay.
We can't. I have to tell you, because this is all new, I cannot rely on my internet connection over here.
Okay.
And everything is so new. So just keep roaring, and we're going to, I mean, it's a turning point. This is like unbelievable amount of intense, and I'm not even going to try to be socially correct or anything. This is an intense period of time, because yes, every year we get 2 sets at least of eclipses, but the fact is that we have 2 retrogrades going on right now. We have 6 actually altogether, because we have Mercury and Venus, and it's a beautiful time to do these things, because everything is in reset time and motion. How can you get to a new life? Because there's no going back. We're going forward, and you have to reset the buttons. And there's Pluto that's working it out in long cycles with Jupiter and with Saturn. There's long cycles of what else is going? Oh, Eris also, which is the planet of discord. I mean, the combinations of connections are just incredible. So, yeah,
we've been looking at this for so many months. It's I can't believe we're actually here now.
Well, we might get eclipsed.
Yeah. But I mean, this one is a wild card. I mean, if you consider our nearest star is the king of our solar system, and it's in a rare alignment with what is our Earth's queen, the moon, and she is out of bounds, as Sue mentioned to me prior. And
yes.
Where our moon queen is out of bounds is actually in her own rulership domain in the sign of Cancer at a 0 cardinal access point. And in astrology terms, it's the big reset button. So anything that falls on that 0 cardinal point, which is either 0 Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, it's a highly potent degree point that's highly protected, and it awakens latent possibilities of planets and major aspects transit those 0 degree points. eclipses in and of themselves create disruptions. So they disrupt the electromagnetic energy and the radiation that feeds our internal batteries and keep us charged. So, and the fact of on top of this is it's the solstice. So, which is a rare time that those two coincide. And astrologers always look at the solstice chart at the beginning of the quarter because it's one of those markers of time itself. And it also sets the collective theme for the next quarter.
True.
Yes.
And I'm, sorry, Liz. I was just going to say, which I got conked out with this reception I have here, but that we are squaring, that means the galactic center. I mean, this is an orb where our ecliptic is going at 0 degrees. It's right where the Milky Way and it's intersecting it. And it started, according to Gemini Brett, in 1975, and it'll continue to 2025. So it's really epic. Yes, and you were going to say, Liz.
Well, yes, this is such a powerful time. It's the Ring of Fire solar eclipse, and it's solstice, so it's like on steroids, this solstice in this eclipse.
So I feel it.
Well, and it's just restarting things and finishing up things, and our values are, probably changing pretty rapidly. It's like we might not even be thinking of, where you live or how things are, but I think people are going to make a lot of changes collectively to that. Will it be closer to family? Will it be in a smaller house or a bigger house? It's like there's all these changes, and how are my values changing? What's important to me? I think that people are going to have huge shifts and changes in that.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, there's so much going on in the world right now. I mean, it's a world thing. It's not just Seattle that things are happening. It's all over the world. So it's, amazing. It's surprising. But it's like we have to just keep breathing and take it one moment at a time.
Yeah, Eris, which is Eris, the goddess of discord, Aries, that's Ares, or Mars. She is his sister, and of course, Mars is the god of war, or causes and defending, however you want to battle your purpose. But Eris is also a battler in her own more hubris way, as I think Lynn Bell said. And what she wants is inclusiveness. And it's interesting with Pisces, with Neptune in Pisces, I always think of unity and oneness. But there's another way of saying that, and that is no exclusion. And because she is the goddess of asking you to not have exclusion. And so just to pick up on what you're saying, Liz, that is so true, because the world is, and the reason I brought that up is because Pluto is squaring Eris 3 times this year, and next week, a little after, on the 30th, will be the second square. So it's so close, we're really feeling it very intensely. Besides, I think also is Jupiter, squaring. We should look at our chart.
Saturn is squaring the U.S. chart. The Saturn is squaring the sun and the Mercury in the sky. So we have a Saturn-Mercury square going on in the sky right now. Oh, no, that's with the U.S. chart. So, and it's, these things are, when we look at the U.S. chart, it's really triggering things. And I wanted to say a square, even though there's frictions there, it's like adjustments need to happen and take place. So that can be a really good thing to make changes.
Yes, but it is Pluto, come to think. Pluto is squaring. No, it's conjunct. That's right, conjunct. It's conjunct. That's what I was reading about. So in some ways, opportunities, people are looking for new opportunities because Jupiter is still in that. I'm just thinking of all these outer planets that are combining, that have different ways of vocalizing their needs and all of that. That's in this
Well, and a
So
few months ago, we didn't even know that a lot of people could work from home, and now a lot of people are working from home. So how we do our daily tasks and work is making big changes, and that was a forced sudden change. And so that's one of the values of changing of how we do things.
yeah, and Cancer is one of those houses that rule real estate. So big flux there. And as Sue mentioned, like any planet that could go retrograde is going retrograde, with the exception of Uranus, who is the rebel planet, and likes to stir the pot and is flirting nicely in a sextile to this moon. And I'm getting these visions of John Travolta in his leather jacket in the movie Grease as he's swooning Olivia Newton-John, who's the girl that always likes to play it safe. And at the end of the movie, they fly into the sky in their sexy convertible. And although you may think I digress here, this is kind of my lead-in for kind of a weird prediction that I think that we could come into a version of a flying car in the near future. Just, with Uranus and Taurus bringing Earth and technology into the sky. Our airline industry is kind of the lifeblood of our economy in many respects, and I, for many, am leery about being herded with the masses into a flying can of recycled air. And so if things like air conditioning and instant photos and Scotch tape were being created and released with these aspected eclipse degrees like they were in 1927, why can't we get our dream of making cars fly? Wouldn't it be grand?
Yeah, I think it is. It's around the corner. There are some that do. And innovation is a big part of all the energies, thankfully. And because, too, when you have tension, such as a square, 90 degrees, such as some of these planets, it needs a resolution. So we'll go for that. We're flying now. Okay. And community. It's huge on community, artistic. Yeah, there's a lot of asteroids that I won't go into it because it was a study session that we were listening to, and there's a subtle interest or energies there, and they're working in that direction. I think, Liz, you've got something on the tip of your tongue. What is it?
Well, I wanted to kind of continue with Sara. I think that they do have some flying cars that they've worked on that just hasn't been let out to the public. But Elon Musk just launched his spacecraft up a few weeks ago, and they're launching new satellites up into space constantly these days. So that's moving forward. Also, Mars is not retrograde at this time, but will go retrograde in September. So that's another planet at this time that's not retrograde, but it will go in September. So it'll be in the sign of Aries. So yes, we are making progress to more air types of travel. And I think it is coming that there's some kind of vehicle that, will be like a car that flies.
And also this idea that Neptune and Mars are very close. They're both in Pisces. Of course, Mars is faster, but right now it has passed it. It's at 25 degrees, whereas Neptune is 20. But there's been this energy of new starts and dreaming and the imagery, which it really begins manifestation. So, yes, I think that's a positive way, because this particular Saros, Saros cycle, which is a 1200 plus year cycle, where these nodal points with the moon go from the bottom, from one pole to the top of the next pole and reverse, and it's along cycles. And this one I think is number 137, I believe.
Yep.
And and Liz, you were reading in wonderful The Eagle and the Lark by Brady.
Bernadette Brady.
Bernadette, the double B, wonderful woman from Scotland. Ph.D. astrologer of brilliance, tells about, and you can also look on Blink. What is that? I wrote it down. Blink.org. Moonblink, I think. Oh, is it moonblink.org? And they tell all about the eclipses. It's fantastic. But the point is,
in Bernadette's book, it says that this eclipse is on 4 North, and it talks about restrictions, restraint, separation, and illusions are the trademark of this eclipse family. Events can occur which seem to block the individual. In this blocking, the individual is very prone to misjudge his or her strengths or the situation, and it is best advised to wait until the eclipse passes before taking action.
Which, pausing when things are moving so fast and so completely makes sense. I mean, we are in a reset time. That's been, I know, I keep getting that information too. But the point is I love the fact that you both, and Sara, you brought up this innovation and the positive form, because, when things are being deconstructed and destroyed, and there is death, Pluto can be not just an ending of a cycle, but the actual physicality. And we know that in many ways, our lifestyle globally has shifted. We don't know where we're going, but we know we're not going back. We know that there's problems with all kinds of factors, whether it's the environment, whether it's economics, and et cetera. And it's not a matter of calling the doom days. It's just a matter of saying, look, this is reality. So from that standpoint, to have the innovation and to have, there's still, okay, what I was saying is, and then I'll finish, is that when there's deconstruction and this chaos and decay and rebirth, there's many opportunities, which is a fantastic part, but it is quite challenging. And I think just giving feedback to people that in their own lives, that elements are coming up, which I think the three of us experience, but I'm sure everybody else is too. And so when you read the Saros, the challenge, through difficulty, it's real. These are meant to be somehow just a new foundation.
Yes. And the U.S. is approaching Neptune opposition.
Yeah.
And that will happen in the spring of next year, the exact hit, but it's within 2 degrees right now. So there's that, and Neptune in the United States chart is in the 9th house, and the opposition is in the 3rd house. So with that opposition, we could be even looking at, what do we want in our reality? Because right now things could be a little cloudy and we just don't have all the information.
Yeah, I think when we look at the chart of the United States, we're looking basically at the time the Constitution was drafted, and that's the starting point in the birth of the United States. And we're also at that Pluto return point, so there's a lot of considerations that weren't really placed there. Slavery was legal at that time. Women had no rights, no property rights, and ability to even hold their own income if they were married. And yeah, there's just a lot of things that we're that are coming into our awareness of how whitewashed our history books and education have been. And I think this whole Mars and Neptune conjunct in this eclipse in Pisces, I get the strong words. Fierce compassion is something that's really needing declared.
Yeah, we need, I like that. We need, from what I was listening to Lynn Bell, who's an astrologer in France, and Lawrence Hillman, who's a PhD and the son of of James Hillman, who wrote a great book, The Soul's Code, so well known in certain areas. But they were saying we need a new story. We need a new consciousness of leadership, that our role models don't show the multifaceted diversity that our nodes are presenting. We're now in the Gemini Sag nodes, and that's lunar nodes. And that started on May 6th, I think, and is going to go on for a year and a half. And just to make a quick comment, the Sibley chart was at 5:10 p.m. on July 4th, 1776. So for people, that's what we're looking at. And it has a 12-degree Sag ascendant, 21 minutes, meaning that, so we're looking at that bi-wheel also with this particular solar eclipse. No, that's excellent. It's so true. We where our democracy is going, and how there was another art I listened to. It was a commission, and it's reshaping democracy. They spent 2 years, and they said that how we vote needs to change, that we need a holiday where it's required, jury duty to vote. That was just one idea that they had.
Yes, because I lived in Puerto Rico, and on voting day, anything that's a very big store closes, and they don't sell alcohol. And so, a great deal of the people vote there. It's like a huge number and percentage wise. So yes, that would be, if we took it as like, yes, this is our responsibility. But I know living out here on the West Coast, it's like a lot of times before we did the mail-in voting here, because we've done it for many years, and we'd go to the polls, well, they'd already say who won an election. So people would say, why go to the poll?
Exactly. This has been a huge, I love that, Liz. Thank you, and Sarah, because I think it needs to have absolutely no media. Everybody just go and vote, then find out, truly get the idea. But this whole idea of the Pluto return, which isn't exact, so we're in a 258-year orb, cycle. So we're in an orb situation within a few degrees. It was 27 degrees, and now it's 3 degrees away. Pluto's at 24, and it moves very slowly. It takes 258 years to go around. But it means that these are incremental steps that are harsh, because the butterfly doesn't get born overnight. That caterpillar has a lot of shifting. So,
Absolutely.
you know what I just noticed? We need to take a little brief cutaway, and we'll be right back. And this is a solar eclipse with the Moonbeam Team. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, the energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
Hi, this is Liz Muschett, astrologer, tarotist, Reiki master teacher, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars.
Wherever you go, Alternative Talk 1150 is here for you.
Hey, that was a lot of fun. That was just great. Yes, this is with the 20th of June, and we will continue this eclipse that's threading together, because it really has to do with the Gemini North node. It's two sides that need to be recognized. My side of, it's duality. There's my thoughts and the other person's thoughts, and both can be held together. It can appear to be divided, But there's many solutions. That is the positive part. So we'll throw that in because there's so much that needs to be worked out. Going back, we need that new story of consciousness where there's no exclusiveness and really premise of how we see the energies that we used to call, what we can call lunar solar or masculine feminine, you know what I mean? Or racial and, oh my goodness, someone lead me out of this. There's just, thank you for listening. It's
Sue, you were mentioning,
Mhm.
The inception point of this eclipse that occurred in I'm trying to find the year. 1389.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's always typically historical things that make the history books more frequently, and I believe you were mentioning the rise of the Ottoman Empire really took foothold at that time. And to me, it's interesting that there's other events at that eclipse point, that aspect of that back in 1908, when there was a new parliament that was established in the Ottoman Empire by Enver Pasha, that was clearly marked by, in history, by his mass genocide that occurred of 1.8 million Armenians. And there's just some other things like the bizarre death or assassination of Rasputin that occurred in 1916. He was the Russian monk and mystic and confidant to the Russian Tsar Nicholas II and his wife. And
Catherine, I think.
Yeah. And he healed the child, their son Alexander, continuously. And so that was like one of these really profound events that kind of lodged in our consciousness and kind of has kept us intrigued. And then interestingly, on the flip side of that, there was a lunar eclipse back in 10 years later where there was the massacre of the Romanov family that occurred at that time, at this eclipse degree.
The Ottoman, I'm glad, Sarah, you brought that up. We talked about that some time back because we're going to have a workshop, which for those folks that may have been looking forward to that, it will happen later. We'll come up with a workshop, but the timing needed to shift for personal reasons this time. But we did discuss that, and the Ottoman Empire, I believe, was one of the largest empires in that area over a vast period of time. Although I think the essential was more limited, within 200 or something. So I don't remember all the details, but it is very true. It sheds an idea of, you're saying that the seed energy, because here we have now politically, well, we must realize, and we were talking about the USA, if I'm catching what you're saying, because we're needing to revise our system of ethics and inclusiveness and racial, so that we have everybody on board. Everybody has a right. And what you're saying is that we're doing the same energetic struggle with large empires. Is this right? Where it's like a one person leader rather than multifaceted. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's interesting. We have a lunar eclipse on the United States birthday on July 4th here on the West Coast. And on the East Coast, it's July 5th, but it's really close to the birthday of the United States. So I think that will be pretty powerful for the U.S. too.
It is. You're right. in fact, right now, Saturn is in Aquarius. So that promotes what both of you have been bringing up about many people elevating, also trauma, but through that trying to elevate things. But at that time, I believe it returns on the 4th to Capricorn. So we're going to have that reset button. So,
Saturn will be in Capricorn on the Sibley's birthday, the United States birthday, the Sibley chart. So it's just super interesting, and it's like amazing. And yes, we're going through lots of changes. It's restart. The eclipse is on the cardinal point of 0 degrees Cancer. And so numerology wise, we would use the number 1, and that's all about new beginnings. And lots of times we don't have all the information. We, can have an idea and move forward with that and see where it goes. Because as it matures, we make adjustments to that to continue on.
Yes, that's right. And Liz, thank you, because on every moonbeam, we do come up with the degrees. And in fact, this one seems to have so many degrees, but it is 0 degrees. It's actually 1 degree Cancer for those folks out there, because it gets in numerology, it gets rounded off, right, to the next number. Yes. And that's leadership. It is. So really, this does seem like it represents the sun, which is also about leadership.
Yes.
Yeah. And a new story, kind of like what Lawrence Hillman was talking about. It always amazes me when you bring up the numerology, how it really relates exactly to the astrological archetype that we're focused on. That's potent.
And this year and at this time, and we're getting multiple hits of this. There's some work that's done by a French astrologer, James Mark Gilman, that has studied what is called synodic cycles, where there's basically the coming together of these heavy hitting, slow aspects of Saturn when it meets up with Pluto, and Saturn when it meets, and Pluto when it meets up with Jupiter, and Saturn when it meets up with Uranus. And all of these kind of trigger these new eras of, just long, slow moving eras that can take 200 years or less, when they kind of kick off a particular event of how we trade, how we experience civilization structures. And it's more potent, I think, because it's in this earth sign of Capricorn, that when this has been happening since January. And so I think we're at the beginning of that synodic cycle. There is, as Liz mentioned, kind of this kind of dark period where we're kind of groping and can't really go back, but we don't really know what's ahead. Yet there's this, it's potent, so we can kind of make what we want of it. And especially if we're focused on where we're at internally, and how we're educating ourselves, and how we're setting things up for ourselves.
And so many of those synodic cycles are restarting in 2020, so that's amazing. And Jupiter will be conjunct Pluto in December at 0 degrees Aquarius. Aquarius. So it's like another 0 degree point. So
and it's every 20 years, just to mention to our for those non-astrologers.
Or they make aspects, those.
But and we'll keep talking about these, but just to clarify, if I might, because I think what Liz was talking about was the Saros at 137, that number of the solar eclipse that we are presently experiencing, or will tonight in about at quarter to midnight here on the West Coast, because it wasn't the 0 degrees, wasn't it more the Saros? But nevertheless, it is that dark, it was that difficult, challenging energy that happens to be part of that Saros,
and if you Yeah,
process.
and if you listen to
But
the
it's
news,
still, oh yeah, but it still resonates absolutely, like I had, mentioned before, with these totally amazing synods, synodic cycles, and Mars can be too. I don't know if it has to be the outer planets, but maybe because Mars and Saturn had their synodic 2-year, and Mars will be such a heavy player this year, but that was March 31st. I forget. I don't think we did that talk. I think that was with Laura Tad. But yeah, and was it Liz or Sara? Now I'm getting confused who mentioned it. But Aries, Mars will be in Aries as of the 27th, I think, of this month, which is only another week for 6 months.
yes, that's so true. Well, and that's why these synodic cycles are so many of them happening this year, because we usually have a couple, but there's just been so many this year that reinforcing that we can start things new, we can start over, we can change things, we can make it better.
And it must mean that unilaterally, you would think the wide population of individuals, one of these cycles at least is going to totally affect their chart, because it is numerical, whether it's in a whatever aspect, and we could go into astrology about all of that, and another, it's the education of it. But the fact is, are you right, you're both following me, right? What I'm saying is that there's just with so many aspects, between Jupiter, for instance, conjunct Pluto 3 times this year, Pluto square Eris 3 times this year, Mars and Venus square 3 times this year, and then, as you just said, the every 20-year cycle of Jupiter and Saturn. And then back in January, which I think one of you mentioned, about the conjunction between Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, which is a 38-year cycle. So yes,
that varies. But, yeah, it varies, but that was 38 years is that one. So yeah, so some of them are pretty long periods, and so that's amazing. And then it takes many years for them to even come back and in that cycle to be in the same sign. So then that's another one, because we hadn't had it in Capricorn, the Pluto Saturn conjunction, for, I want to say it was about 500 years.
Wow, I think you're very likely right. And it just came to mind. We say new beginnings, but of course that means we're ending something. So something in our life, and particularly when we're looking at planets like Pluto, it's something that had to end, perhaps not in an easy way. It could be a death, or it could be just a loss of a job, some sense of empowerment that changes your structure of power, because the old way is not feeding you anymore, and it's the necessary life support wants new energy. So you have to let go, and that's not easy. And come to think of it, we're in Cancer right now. Cancer doesn't like to let go. It's attachment, emotions.
Yes, it does have an attachment to what we feel comfortable with. And in the United States chart, this eclipse is really close to the natal Venus and the natal Jupiter, so people may have a hard time letting go of how they've had things. But I believe that through some changes, people will make changes. Yes, some of them will be very difficult, but a lot of people, I believe, will be, in the end, it'll be, oh, I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't forced to do this. But it can be very challenging to get there, because as we know, a lot of people are having difficult things going on in their life. So
yeah. And Sara, I know you've got thoughts here. I just know it.
Yeah, one thing that was kind of a standout for me, there was an event, because the eclipse path is going heavy over mid-Africa through the Middle East and over India and Central Asia, or southern to Central Asia. And there was a movie release called Login, I think, Once Upon a Time in India, and it was an internationally acclaimed movie that helped break out India into the movie industry. And this happened in June 21st, 2001 at this Eclipse degree. And the movie storyline itself was about how this region was oppressed by government taxation and was challenged with a match of cricket to win its financial freedom. And it's, it was just kind of a, that's such a huge sport throughout the two countries of India and Pakistan. And, but there could be just kind of themes that we revisit, or there could be a popularity or revisiting of that kind of theme of how to switch up how oppressive things can be in a fun way. And also there was a big doping scandal.
Perfect. Yes.
That happened in, the Tour de France. It finally stripped Lance Armstrong of his win. And so there was kind of this, it was just one thing that was really pervasive in our awareness of how cheating others and cheating to win, and that sort of thing that made ethical
misuse of ethical
exactly.
power.
So, Sarah, do you have a flower essence this month?
It was.
Were you going to say something, Sue, or were you going to?
Oh, well, we don't have too much minutes, and I'd love to hear that. But I will say that yes, transforming the use of power, and I was just Bear River. We listened to it, Norwalk, and I listened, and he was saying inclusion is the conclusion, and it's belonging to collective liberation. So that's exactly what you're saying, because as he was pointing out, creating the perfect social institutions, isn't that going to be the best dream? So thank you both. And yes, I'm all ears. We have quite a, yes, let's hear a little remedy for our souls.
For plant medicine, as I was scanning my vast inventory, the flower essence that was pulling for this time is California poppy. And interestingly, I was at a stoplight the other day, and I noticed this homeless man that had picked a California poppy blossom that had been it grows profusely on the east side roadsides right now, and he was repeatedly smelling it and was fascinated by its simple 4-petal, light orange, yellow, radiant beauty, and its vibration was visibly lighting his spirit. And why I believe this particular poppy elixir is collectively supporting us now is its ability to aid us in strengthening the internal alignment of values and choices. And when we're suffering, it's easy to be glamored by fleeting experiences that take us outside of ourselves and that can stun and disempower us. So where California poppy serves is how it awakens the human heart, and it supports the true treasure of our inner spiritual development. So
that sounds great.
My goodness. It does. And orange is one of my favorite colors, actually. And I was just looking at a note here that was reminding me what you're saying answers this whole idea that, because it is in Cancer, just to remind my own self here, this eclipse is 0 degrees Cancer. And Cancer references the people. How do we, and the needs, our needs. I think I'm answering what you're saying here. And how do we care for our needs collectively? Yes, and socially. And go ahead. I mean, please. We're not seeing each other, folks.
Yeah. But when I study the energy of this eclipse, I'm really hearing the reverberating voice of fierce compassion and find your sovereignty and create your safe haven. So I'm now, yeah. So I'm asking you just to maybe put your hand on your heart and the other hand on your belly, if you can, and repeat after me. I am fierce compassion.
I am, Liz. You
I
want to join
am
me?
fierce
Fierce
compassion.
compassion.
I am finding my sovereignty.
Oh, I
Am finding my sovereignty.
finding my sovereignty.
I am creating my safe haven.
I
am creating my own safe haven.
Safe haven.
Yeah. And really absorb that. As you be this, you can support this for yourself and your loved ones, and the world needs you to be resourceful and well connected. And we're now so sensitive and challenged with the spiritual desire of this unity of Mars and Neptune to overcome the seemingly impenetrable powers of Pluto and Saturn, with Jupiter exploiting this old order of which is overdue to crumble and fall away. So embrace fierce compassion, find sovereignty, and create safe haven.
So beautifully said.
Absolutely. I needed it like salve on my heart. I love it. Because again and again, that gives reason to realize that by us being the new form of our own leadership, by what really empowers our heart, choosing, as Philip Sedgwick said in his little, I like to repeat what people have said, give them credit here, is what do you really, really want? And can you accept what you really, really want? Because if that's the case, and that's part of manifestation, when it comes, you can grab it and go and just do, without like, oh, maybe I should or maybe I shouldn't. No, you've taken it and accepted it. Because when I think about it, if we need a new paradigm, a new story of leadership, that means that, people have also said this is the time to be yourself. Well, it's because we need new leadership. And how can we know unless we just become it? And I love to see it right here in this team. This is the Moonbeam Team, folks. And this is with Liz Muschett and Sara Stromley. And they're both in the Northwest here. And on Cosmos, you can find them. It's Elizabeth Muschett.com, and it's also Sara Stromley has brain
body therapy.
Brain body therapy, yes. And they have multitude of talents. We all three give consultations, but if you check us out there, but I just wanted to reference who is talking. But the point is that it's wonderful to have this sense of leadership within this team where they come up and talk, and we are talking through cyberspace like everybody else, and we can't see each other. So we're trying the new zero, right, of sensory experience. Anyway, I'm babbling. And how long do we have? We have a few minutes. My goodness. I think diversity, when we go back to the numerical, Liz, it's 29 degrees North Node Gemini and Sag, South Node, and 0 degrees Cancer. And of course, you were even adding up, I think Sara was in an earlier talk, 2020 into, it was 12, I believe was the number. Or else we could even talk about 29 that goes to 11. But right there, that's a lot of amazing energy that we're dealing with too.
Well, and that 29 adds up to 11. So that's 11's a very powerful number. Yes, it can reduce down to 2, but it's asking us to step up and be more responsible and be stewards, be teachers, be leaders. So again, it just keeps reinforcing the same theme over and over. And then for the July 4th full moon, that will be at 13 degrees. So we would use the number 14, and that reduces down to a 5. So we can expect change because 5's about a lot of change.
Yes. So now the formation is set, and we get to change what we're going to build on. I think we have come to our conclusion just about. I haven't quite heard the music. We have a couple of seconds, but I just want to thank you so very much. And also dealing with me through this kind of chaotic, that's the word, moment. But change is that. And having great network of like-minded folks like yourself and everybody listening really makes all the difference. Connecting our hearts. So much love, and
we'll be back for the Leo full moon.
Yay! And sending you some healing and love to you, Sue, and your mom at this difficult time. So California poppy. All right. Till again. Yay!
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.